Picture this. It is the winter of 1299. You are a soldier standing atop the sun-baked ramparts of Delhi. You are gripping a spear so tight your knuckles have turned a ghostly white. The ground beneath your feet is not just shaking, it is vibrating with a rhythmic, low-frequency hum. That is not an earthquake. That is the sound of 200,000 Mongol horses thundering toward your home. For decades, these warriors have been the grim reapers of Asia. They have turned emperors into slaves and thriving cities into silent graveyards. But today, through the rising wall of dust, you don't just see soldiers. You see thousands of wagons. You see yurts. You see the faces of women and children peering out from the baggage train. In the brutal language of steppe warfare, this is the ultimate red flag. This isn't a raid looking for gold or grain. This is a migration. They haven't come to rob you. They have come to replace you. If you lose today, there will be no Delhi left to rebuild. They will turn your mosques into stables and your palaces into pastures. This is the Battle of Kili, the moment the unstoppable object hits the immovable object. Most kings would have packed their treasuries and fled to the south. Most generals would have locked the gates and prayed for a miracle. But the man leading you is not a man of miracles. He is a man of iron. He stands at the gate, looking into the heart of the storm, and he gives the order, "Open the gates. We march out to meet them." To understand how a single city stood against a continental empire, we have to look into the eyes of the man holding the leash of the Delhi Sultanate, Alauddin Khalji. In the storybooks of any other nation, Alauddin would be the villain. His rise to power was a Shakespearean tragedy soaked in gasoline. Just years prior, the Sultanate was ruled by his uncle, Jalaluddin, a kind, lenient old man who believed in the power of forgiveness. Alauddin saw this kindness as a disease. In a move that shocked the medieval world, Alauddin lured his uncle to a meeting on a boat, pretending to beg for mercy. As the old man embraced him, weeping with relief, Alauddin gave the signal. His soldiers struck the Sultan down in the water. They didn't just kill him, they severed his head, put it on a spear, and paraded it through the camp while Alauddin sat under the royal canopy, declaring himself the shadow of God on earth. Because he had seized power through betrayal, Alauddin lived in a state of hyper-vigilance. He trusted no one, he loved no one, and this paranoia birthed his first true secret weapon, information. He created the Munhians, one of the most terrifyingly efficient intelligence networks the ancient world had ever seen. These weren't just military scouts. The Munhians were everywhere. They were the beggars in the marketplace, the servants in noble houses, and the sweepers in the barracks. They reported everything to the Sultan, from the price of a loaf of bread to a whispered word of rebellion in a general's tent. The fear was so absolute that contemporary chroniclers wrote that nobles stopped speaking to each other in private, communicating only with sign language, terrified that the very walls had ears. But this police state was exactly what Delhi needed to survive. When news of the Mongol advance arrived, the Munhians didn't just report the enemy's location, they dissected their intent. Alauddin knew the Chagatai tactics. He knew they thrived on chaos and the collapse of order. So he countered it with absolute, rigid discipline. While the city panicked, Alauddin's officers seized the markets. He didn't ask merchants to keep prices low. He issued a decree that fixed the price of every single commodity: wheat, rice, sugar, horses, even cloth. These prices were carved in stone. To ensure the army was fed, he issued a chilling warning. If a shopkeeper charged a single copper coin above the fixed rate or used false weights to shortchange a customer, the Sultan's inspectors would cut an equal weight of flesh from the shopkeeper's body. It was barbaric, but it was effective. Inflation dropped to zero. For the rest of his reign, even through drought and war, the price of grain never rose. The army was fed, clothed, and armed for pennies, funded by a treasury that remained bursting with gold. Alauddin then turned his attention to the soldiers themselves. He realized the old feudal system where you rented soldiers from local lords was a recipe for disaster against the Mongols. He wanted a professional standing army. He calculated he needed precisely 475,000 cavalrymen. To manage this force, he introduced Chera and Dag. Chera was a detailed descriptive roll of every soldier, the first biometric ID cards in history. Their height, their complexion, their scars were all recorded, so no ghost soldiers could collect a paycheck. Dag was the branding of horses with the royal insignia, preventing soldiers from swapping their high-quality war horses for cheap ponies after inspection. He had turned a chaotic kingdom into a massive centralized military machine. Now cross the no man's land and step into the enemy camp. If Delhi was suffocating with dread, the Mongol encampment at Kili was an atmosphere of festive arrogance. Leading this force was Kutlug Khwaja, son of the Khan. He represented a new generation of Mongol royalty, young, hungry, and dangerously eager to carve out his own kingdom. The weapon his army carried was a masterpiece of technology, the recurve composite bow. Made of horn, wood, and sinew, it had a draw weight of over 100 pounds and could punch through chainmail from distances where the enemy couldn't even see the archer's eyes. Combined with the stirrup, which allowed them to stand and fire with sniper-like precision at full gallop, the Mongols were the masters of speed. Their favorite tactic was the mungudai, the feigned retreat. They would charge, pretend to panic, and run away. When the enemy broke formation to chase them, the Mongols would suddenly wheel around and slaughter the disorganized pursuers. It had worked on Russians, Persians, and Chinese. They expected the Indian army to be another slow, ponderous beast, a dinosaur waiting to be hunted. But Alauddin had prepared a secret that the Mongols could not calculate. He knew he couldn't outrun them, so he decided to outshock them. He brought forth the war elephant. Hundreds of them. These weren't just animals, they were armored fortresses. Their trunks and ears were draped in heavy plate. Their tusks were fitted with steel spikes coated in poison. On their backs, they carried wooden towers manned by archers and javelin throwers. But the true genius of the elephant was biological. Horses are naturally terrified of elephants. The deep guttural rumble of an elephant's growl and its sheer alien size trigger a primal panic in equines. The Mongol horses, raised on the open steppes of Central Asia, had never seen such monsters. As the Indian line crashed into the Mongol vanguard, the famed discipline of the Mongol ponies evaporated. The horses reared, threw their riders, and refused to charge. The fluid movement of the Mongol formation hit a stone wall. This was the moment Zafar Khan had been waiting for. If Alauddin was the brain of the Sultanate, Zafar Khan was the beating heart. He was the Rustam of the age, a warrior of such legendary strength that his name alone made the Mongols tremble. He commanded the right wing, the tip of the spear. Seeing the hesitation in the Mongol ranks, Zafar Khan didn't wait for orders. He didn't wait for the center to engage. He ordered a full, reckless charge. Zafar Khan and his elite cavalry didn't just push the Mongols back, they shattered them. He fought like a man possessed, his heavy mace crushing skulls through thick leather helmets. The Indian cavalry, emboldened by their general's ferocity, cut through the Mongol vanguard with a violence that stunned both armies. For the first time in living memory, the Mongols were the ones panicking. Zafar was driving them back mile after bloody mile. He was winning. He was chasing the dream of total victory. But in the heat of the chase, Zafar Khan made a fatal error. He He let his bloodlust overtake his tactical discipline. He pushed deeper and deeper into enemy territory, assuming the rest of the Delhi army, the center led by Alauddin, was right behind him. He thought they were moving in to deliver the killing blow. When the dust finally cleared for a split second, Zafar Khan pulled on his reins and looked back. His blood must have frozen. He was alone. The main army of Delhi had not moved a single inch. Alauddin Khalji stood firm in the center, his banners flapping in the wind, watching his greatest general drift further and further away into the Mongol swarm. Historians still debate what happened in that moment. Was it caution, or was it something far more sinister? Alauddin saw the Mongols retreating, but he also knew that if Zafar Khan returned to Delhi as the man who single-handedly defeated the Mongol Empire, the people would crown Zafar before the sun set. A hero is a threat to a tyrant. So Alauddin stood still. He watched as the gap grew. He watched as the Mongols realized the Tiger of India had walked into their trap. The Mongol retreat stopped. The horsemen wheeled around. Fresh units emerged from the flanks, cutting off Zafar's path back to safety. The hunter had become the prey. The trap snapped shut. 10,000 Mongol horsemen encircled Zafar's small, exhausted division. Kutlug Khwaja, stunned by Zafar's courage, rode forward under a flag of truce. He offered Zafar a choice. Your Sultan has abandoned you. He stands there and watches you die. Join me. My father, the Khan, will make you a ruler greater than the one you serve. Zafar Khan looked at the Mongol prince. He looked at the distant, silent banners of Alauddin. He knew he had been betrayed. But he looked back at Kutlug Khwaja and shouted, I have eaten the salt of the Sultan. I will not be untrue to my salt. The arrows began to fall like rain. Zafar Khan and his men formed a tight circle, backs together. They fought on foot as their horses were shot out from under them. Legend says Zafar Khan was bristling with so many arrows he looked like a porcupine, yet he continued to swing his blade, breaking the swords of his enemies. The Mongols were so terrified of his reach that they refused to close in, eventually killing him from a distance with a final, massive hail of arrows. Zafar Khan fell. The tiger was dead. But in his final suicidal charge, he had wounded Prince Kutlug Khwaja, a deep, ragged wound that would later become infected. As night fell over Kili, the screaming stopped. The two armies pulled back. To the soldiers of Delhi, it felt like a defeat. Their hero was gone. But in the Mongol camp, the victory tasted like ash. They looked at the casualties Zafar had inflicted. They looked at their dying prince, and they looked across the plain at Alauddin's army, 200,000 fresh soldiers and hundreds of elephants that hadn't even entered the fight yet. Alauddin's stoicism was his true secret weapon. By refusing to flinch after losing his best general, he sent a silent message to the Mongols. You killed one man. I have 100,000 more, and I am not moving. Under the cover of darkness, the impossible happened. The Mongols packed their tents, they gathered their families, they turned their horses north, and they fled. They didn't just retreat, they ran as if the devil himself was chasing them. The greatest military force on the planet had blinked. Alauddin rode out the next morning to inspect the empty camp. He didn't cheer. He knew this was only a reprieve. He returned to Delhi and turned the city into a command bunker. He built a new capital, Siri Fort, a city with massive walls, devoid of art or luxury, designed purely for garrisoning his professional army. When the Mongols returned in 1303 under a general named Tardi, they found Alauddin locked inside Siri.
They besieged the city for 2 months, but Alauddin's market reforms ensured the city had years of grain stored. The Mongols, living off the land, ran out of food and were forced to retreat again. But for Alauddin, surviving was no longer enough. To stop the apocalypse, he decided to become the apocalypse. He had to speak the only language the Mongols understood: absolute performative cruelty. In 1305, at the Battle of Amroha, his new professional generals crushed a Mongol force and captured thousands of prisoners. Alauddin ordered them brought to Delhi. He didn't ransom them. He ordered them trampled to death by elephants in a public spectacle. Then he ordered the construction of a monument, the Chor Minar, or the Tower of Thieves. It was a tower built not of brick, but of the severed heads of 8,000 Mongol soldiers. Each circular hole in the tower held a rotting head, staring north with dead eyes. The message was visceral. Alauddin was telling the Khans, "You bring me armies, I will use them as building materials." This was the psychological victory. The Mongols were used to being the ones who built pyramids of skulls. When they saw a ruler in Delhi willing to outmonster them, the dynamic shifted. The predator became the prey. After one last desperate invasion was crushed at the Ravi River in 1306, the Mongols simply stopped coming. The road to India became a graveyard they dared not tread. But there is a cruel irony in the life of a tyrant. The walls you build to keep the enemy out eventually become the walls that keep you in. By 1310, Alauddin had achieved the impossible, but he was a wreck. The mental load of micromanaging a totalitarian state, every price, every spy report, every soldier's face began to rot his mind. He developed dropsy, a painful swelling of the body. His paranoia, the trait that saved India, now turned into madness. He stopped trusting his generals. He stopped trusting his family. He retreated into the shadows of Siri Fort, surrounded by gold and grain, but utterly alone. His only companion was Malik Kafur, a brilliant and ruthless general who began to dismantle the dynasty from the inside, whispering poison into the Sultan's ear, until Alauddin imprisoned his own wife and sons. When Alauddin finally died in January 1316, the silence that fell over Delhi wasn't one of mourning, it was one of exhaustion. His market reforms evaporated overnight because they were based on fear, not economics. His dynasty imploded in a bath of blood within 4 years. Alauddin Khalji was the cure that was almost as bad as the disease. He was a murderer, a usurper, and a tyrant who turned his kingdom into a prison camp. But because he stood his ground, India remained India. Unlike China, Russia, or Persia, the cultural and social fabric of the subcontinent remained intact, shielded by a wall of elephants and severed heads. As you look at the crumbling stones of Siri Fort today, don't just see a ruin, see the desperation, see the fear, and see the ruthless iron will that once stood between a trembling population and the end of the world. The choice Alauddin made to trade freedom for security is a dilemma that has never left us. It echoes in every surveillance camera and every emergency decree made in the name of national safety. So, I ask you one last time, was the saving of a civilization worth the price of its soul? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Until next time, keep questioning the past, because the history you know is only half that matters.